let me double check, make sure everything makes sense. If 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 it's the first entry, we just add it directly. If it's not the first entry, then we check if the user is present. If the user is present, we have to delete his previous entry, and then we check if his ID is present, we just add the user to it. But if the ID is not present, then we add an ID and we put the user in it. Perfect. Alright, so this else here, we're going to keep going after. So, sorry, here. So if the user is not present, if this is the first time the user writes a code, then we don't need to remove him, but we have to check if the ID is present. So we're gonna game dot ID present, and this is our message dot content dot to uppercase. So if the ID is present, we just do the same thing we did earlier. We add the user. My bad, I forgot to write that. So if, alright. So if the ID is already present, we're just going to add the user. So game.addUser, and our user has the message.content.id. Oh, sorry, message.content.to uppercase. Sometimes I say stuff kind of weird. It's because I'm French, so my accent can be kind of strong sometimes. And my username, so message.author.username. Alright, so if the ID is present, we just add a new user. If the ID is not present, then we add the new ID. So to uppercase m.author.username. So now you see why writing this class here, which seemed kind of useless at some point, but when you come back and you use it, it's so much cleaner and more understandable to write it in an object-oriented format for this kind of stuff, instead of having all this code here repeated every time that we want to execute it. We can just use it one time and that's it. So right here, this is the logic we need just to do our last three. So if I'm still on the collector now, so after that I receive all these entries and stuff, I want to sort it so that the entry with the most users is always the first one. And we already wrote this function in listing here in sort. This takes care of that. So we're gonna go in here and we're gonna write it. So just game dot sort, just like that. And now we're going on the part where we're gonna write the message to the user. So here we're gonna do two things. So we're gonna start with a for loop, and I'm gonna take a variable I equal to 0 while I is smaller than the game.data.length, and then I'm gonna increment my I. Here I'm gonna, did I forget to declare these? Yeah, I did. Okay, so right under game.sort, we're just gonna add two things real quick. So I'm gonna call something string, and we're gonna be equal to nothing. All right, and then we're gonna create a copy of our last three, and we're gonna make it a new Discord .rich embed, and we're gonna set the title to the same thing we did earlier, so last three code, and we're gonna set its color. The color will be the same thing we wrote multiple times already. I copied it, so I'm just gonna paste. You can change colors as I said, but just Google it quick before you check which color you want. Just don't write random codes in there, because it'll most likely turn out into a green or a black color. Alright, so now we can return into our for loop after I had just forgotten to write these things. Okay, so here we're going to take our string and we're going to make it equal back to nothing again. You'll see why I'm doing this later. And then we're going to do a second for loop with variable j instead of I. and j is going to be smaller than our game dot data of I dot users dot length, and then j plus plus. Okay, so here we loop on all of our codes we got, all the IDs, and here we loop on all the users. Every time I have a user, I want to add it to my string. So I'm going to plus equal, I'm going to put game dot data of I dot users of j. And with this, I am copying all the users into that string, and I want to add a new line every time I add one. So that here, this n thing, that's making a new line. So instead of having all the usernames on one line, it makes us, it's like if you hit enter and you have multiple ones. Alright, and now we're going to put our last three, and we're going to add a field. And on the field here, you have to be careful because I'm using that thing to the left of the number one again, the like sideways quotes. It's not the same one as the normal. And I'm going to use the money sign with a curly bracket, and it's going to be my game dot data dot of I dot ID dot to uppercase. Alright, this is going to be the code, and then after that I'm just going to write a little minus sign, and I'm going to write how many players I have in the game. So this technically would be my game dot data of I dot users dot length. This is how many players wrote that code. And then I want to write players so you can see how many players. And then after that, I'm going to put a comma. I'm going to put my string value, and then I'll put another comma, and I'll put true. True is because I want it to be in line. I don't want it to be stacked on top of each other. I want it to be in line. Alright, so this is the ID. This is the amount of players. This will be all the players, and this makes it in line. Alright, so now that we have that, the reason also here while string is empty is because this will be all the users for one ID. I'll add the new field, and before I do the next one, I want to make sure it's empty. I don't want to copy the names over and over. Alright, so we got this. So now, whoops. So now we're going to edit our last three to be able to keep it just one message and not have a bunch of different. And it's going to be the last three. And obviously we want to catch an error here, because if the message gets deleted or it can't edit, it's going to stop your program, and you don't want that to happen. So we're going to console log we caught an edit error. Alright, perfect. And that's that. And now obviously you see how every time someone writes a code, it deletes it right away, right? Because you don't want to have a bunch of codes and then the information you want to read is hidden up in the messages. So we're going to check if our message dot deletable, well, if it is, then we're going to try to delete it. So delete, and we're only going to catch error here, since if a message is not deletable, we don't want the program to crash, right? So we're going to console.log can't delete, and we're going to console.log our error message, just so you know that you weren't able to delete that message, and you know why, because it'll tell you the error. Alright, so this is all we need inside our collector, and now we're going to do another one. So collector.on, and on this event we want the end event, right? The end is going to be where all of our messages are collected. And then here we're just going to console log the, oops, oh my god. Alright, here, this is a sideways thing again, like it's not the quote mark, it's like the one next to the I, to the one. I'm going to say collected, and we collected how many messages. It's going to be collected, oops, collected dot size, because this is a collection, it's not an array, so it's not length, it's a size. Items. So after our 3 minutes has passed and we collected all the codes we need, at the end it's just going to tell you how many did we collect. Okay. So this is exactly what we need to run this function. I'm gonna add one little things here. So let's say you want to be able to stop it from always collecting messages. Okay, no, I'm gonna add that later. All right. So now that we have all this written, we can go and test it out, make sure if it works. So I saved it. I'm going to make sure we can see what I'm doing. All right. I'm gonna open my terminal down here. Um, okay, I'm gonna write node.index.js. Alright, so we see how we loaded our command 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it says hello, I'm ready. Let's go and let's give it a try. I just realized when I ran the first test, there was an error. It's because on line 53, or if you didn't use the exact same spacing as I did, on the on the on the let last 3 equals new Discord rich embed right under our time interval. I forgot to add a dot here, so that caused me an error. Alright, so now clear our console and we're going to try again. Alright, so here we're going to test our bot real quick, see if it works as we intended. So we're going to start it. Don't mind the delay, this won't be like this for you. It's only slow for me because I'm uploading a video to YouTube as I'm doing this one. So my connection's horrible. But yeah, so let's write a code. So I'm going to write this. It takes it, it deletes it. Alright. And now if someone else writes a different code, it adds it, deletes this message, and then someone else has a different, then someone else has a different. So here we got 4 codes, 4 different ones. Now we want to see if our sorting values work. So let's say Fry Clam here miswrote his code, and he wants to write DDD instead. Let's see. So I put DDD. It should take Clam out, yeah. So it took him out, and it adds it to here, and it put this one first. So here, let's say if I go to FFF, FFF should become the first one, and the other one should be, yeah, so it works perfectly fine. So let's do one last test. Let's do this one, DDD. So we have DDD, DDD. He's already in DDD, and then we have here DDD. Alright, so we got 3 users in DDD, 1 in F. If I want to change it so that I want to see if it's going to take over their sorting. So if this one goes to FFF, alright, now they're tie, and then this one goes to FFF, and it wins and it takes over the first position. So you see how it sorts the value with the most players first. Alright, perfect. So now the only issue currently with this is everyone can write the start command, and everyone can write it over and over. Whoops, I did a typo. Everyone can write it over and over and restart your bot at all time, and you don't want that to happen. And you see, if I change it, I keep changing this old one as well. So that's no good. So we want to stop this from happening. And to be able to do that, I'll do it in the next episode, because this one is already close to 30 to 40 minutes long. So you'll see it in a few in the next part. Thanks again for watching. Please subscribe so you can know when the series continue. Leave comments if you don't understand something, and have a great day.